At any time you want to ask a question, don't feel like you can't just stop me, and we'll take a breather, and I'll jump right in and answer whatever questions you have. So have you guys, let's hide this meeting control thing here too. Hide meeting controls. Have you guys been able to get into SignTracker much and really play around with it, or?
Yeah, I've dabbled a bit. I've got a few things in my queue I'm trying to do. I entered a bunch of different part numbers for shirts, trying to figure out how that would work, because I had a couple of quotes that I was trying to get going.
Okay.
And that was kind of where I hit the... Go ahead, Dallas.
All right, great.
And I have, we are integrating all of our jobs are running through SignTracker. We got the master task list that I got from you, Joe, and put it in there. And just as far as me kind of managing the jobs and the projects that come through is just learning how to better utilize SignTracker at this point.
Okay. That sounds good. I will, I'll kind of go through SignTracker pretty much how I used it in my last sign shop. And then, like I said, you guys can stop me at any point if you have questions. So a couple things. This is the dashboard. We're slowly but surely kind of working through the app to make it more responsive to mobile. Because we get a lot of people say, hey, do you guys can have a mobile app? I think what's probably more important for us is we're making it so that it's responsive. You have to log in through whatever browser you use on your phone or your tablet. But for example, now, I mean, if you log in and you land on the dashboard, the dashboard can look a little messy. But the menu is completely responsive to mobile. So if you log in now with your phone or your tablet, and you want to find something, you can hit the search. This will take you anywhere in the app, and it's completely mobile friendly. So I can go, if you're looking for a job or you just want to get to the job flow board, you just type in job flow board. And this is obviously on your computer too, not just mobile, but or if we're just searching for a specific job, it'll pull it right up, client, whatever, anything. It'll start a new job. So if you wanted to just go new job from mobile, you just, you can go new job, add a new job, poof. So this is new. We just launched all this. And then also if you pull it up on your phone, even though this looks a little jumbled, the menus now are all mobile friendly. So it'll take you to wherever you want to go in the app. And then, like I said, slowly but surely, we are working through. There are parts of the app right now that are already really responsive to mobile. And then there's parts that aren't, but we'll get there. But on your dashboard, any job that you're associated with, it's going to show up here. I'm associated with every single job in the system. That's why there's so many pages of jobs. As long as they're active jobs. If they're archived, they're not going to show up here. This is just a snapshot of your job flow board. So you can kind of see where, well, I got, opportunities, and there's a bunch of them that I just, way past due, or that I haven't followed up on or whatever. But it can kind of show you where things are getting stuck. Also, any calendar event that you're associated with that's not a job is going to show up here, so that you can set up project management meetings or sales meetings or whatever, and they'll show up here, whether it's today or this week. These webinars, I try to do them every single Wednesday if I can. You're always welcome to jump on, even if it's just for like 10 minutes, like, hey, I can't really stay. Can you just answer this quick question? And because everyone learns, and everyone learns a lot from other people's questions too. We do have training videos, recorded webinars. This recorded webinar that we're doing today, I'm going to go ahead and put it on our YouTube channel and all that, because we've made some changes, a lot of changes in the past few weeks. And so I probably need to put a nice, fresh webinar up there. So I'm recording this one, by the way. You guys are going to be famous. And I'll put this up on the marketing, on the YouTube channel. So, and then there's a calendar. At the moment, the calendar doesn't sync with like Google or anything like that. That's something it's on our path to do more integrations. But in the meantime, it is, this is connected throughout the entire app. So any job that if I change the due date here and drag it, it's going to change it throughout the whole system. And the same with, and you can click the job and it'll take you to the job too. You can go to the job from here. Same with tasks. So you can, and you don't have to see everything, so you can set up all different kinds of categories. If you don't want to look at, say you don't want to just look at active jobs, you can shut them off. And they will, in theory, they will shut up. There they go. So you can shut them off. You can turn them on. Same with any, tasks. If you only want to see your tasks, or if you want to see all unassigned tasks. I mean, some people like to look at everything from a calendar view, and there is a week view and a day view, and you can print the calendar and add more categories and all that. Contacts, if you guys are syncing with QuickBooks, whether it's desktop version or the online version, all your contacts will come over from there. If you are not intending to do that and you have your contacts on, in some kind of a CSV file or Excel file or whatever, you can upload them here, or you can just download. We have a little template you can download. So if you have some other way of having all your clients, you could cut and paste the columns like first name, last name, company name, all that stuff. And it's all filled out. And then you would just choose it and upload it, and it'll import it all in. Or you can just enter them in as you go. The one thing about contacts that's really cool, like say if I have how we structured this is, if you have a company that you do a ton of work for, but you have half a dozen different people that work there, you do different jobs with different people, it'll track that. So, and I'll show you where you set that up in the jobs. But if you come to the company screen, you're going to be able to see all the jobs that are in what stage they're in, and then all the archive jobs. So if you're just looking for a specific job that you did and you can't quite remember, what was that job I did for Allison Design? Then you would just come here and you could find it. I mean, obviously you could pull it up in Universal Search much easier if you remember the job name or whatever. But so every time I set up a new job for this particular company, it's going to go ahead and, tag it to this company's history. And then each individual, same. So if if I'm in here, it's going to show me which jobs I'm actively working on with Bob, what stage they're in, and all the jobs that I did for the company with Bob they'll all be here. Okay, so let's go to jobs, because this is really where you're going to spend, I think, the majority of your time in SignTracker. So if you're, and there's a couple of views of the jobs. And I kept this open all day. So when I was last working at my daughter's sign shop, my daughter and my son-in-law, I did a lot of the sales, but I also did a lot of project management. So I liked the job list view because I could get to things really quick. So if I knew, let's say I was going to work on, this job for Trudy's, it was just easy for me to just go boop and then pull it right up. And I'm on a Mac. So if you hit the job name, I hit the command key or control if you're on a PC, it's going to open up you can keep the list open all day pretty much. And then you can come in here and do whatever you need to do on the job, which we'll come back to this in a minute. But the other thing is on the job list view is you can change things here from stage to stage. So if I wanted to, drop this into the design stage or whatever, it'll change it and it'll move it automatically for you on the job flow board. And then the same with due dates. So I can come in and say, okay, I'm going to bump this due date back a few days. You can do that from here. And then these are all sortable, or, so you can, if I just wanted to look at all my opportunities, I could look at them that way. Not that you can't do that on the job flow board, because these will all be in the opportunities column on the job flow board. But if you were, if I was a salesperson and I wanted to just, look at my opportunities, I could go, all right, I'm the sales rep, and here are all my jobs that I'm working on. So, and I'm going to open this while we're here too, the task list, but we'll talk about the tasks before we get to that. But if you, if you start a new job in SignTracker, a customer calls in, you would just go, new job, or that button, new job, and you want to name it, whatever, let's just say this is a banner job and it's going to be, I have 10 zillion banner jobs in the system because it's just an easier way to show you how everything works. But you can have any kind of job. So it's a t-shirt job or whatever, and whatever your naming system is. So at our sign shop, we would, and you don't quite have to do this in SignTracker, we would always put the client's name dash banner, client's name dash channel letter set. Thing in SignTracker that's nice though is you don't actually have to use the client's name here because it's going to show up in the job list and it's going to show up on the job card on the job flow board anyway. So just a good idea to name it, whatever the main product is on this project. I mean, it could be a project where you're doing a channel letter set and a pylon panel. So maybe you want to just call it channel letter / panel, but unless you have your own pretty strict naming system. The reason why I say all that, I'm going to show you in the quoting in a second, because you can clone quotes from other jobs now, and there's all kinds of cool stuff you can do. So it's good to have a somewhat of a consistent naming system. If the client is brand new and they're not in the system yet, let's say, we'll just come up with some funky name here. So they're not in the system. You can add a company and then, whoops, so sorry, guys. I meant to shut that off. So you can add, a new company here. You don't have to go to the contact section or anything like that. But so that you don't have to watch me type really slow, I'm just going to go ahead and choose one that's already in the system. So so sorry, Liz. Hey, I apologize. I'm actually on a webinar right now. Can I call you back? Thank you. My daughter that owns a sign shop, I love her with all my heart, but she'll call me 10 times in a row if I don't answer. Anyway, so now this job is tagged, to this company. And now we can tag it to a person at this company. So we'll say, and this will have the whole list, right? So you can choose whoever it is. So again, if it's a new person at that company, you just enter the new person in, but we'll go ahead and assign it to somebody that's already in the system. And if it's a product or a service job, you tag it. If you know who the person is that's managing the job, and if you have sales reps, and you can tag it to a sales rep, or whoever the main person is that's dealing with the customer. It could be it's the same person. And then if you know a due date at this point, you can assign a due date now, but you don't have to if you don't know. If they're just calling in and you're kind of just starting the process and getting quotes together and designs and all that. If the job location, the delivery location is different than up here, you can enter it here. And we'll just make one up. Okay, and then we'll submit it. So now you've created this new job. This job is going to land on the job flow board. So if I close this really fast, I'll come right back to it. If I close this really fast, it's going to land in the first column of the job flow board, in the first spot. So your job flow board should be kind of set up like this. I think I've added some columns, but even though it's not a sole job, in SignTracker, everything is a job. And the main reason why is just because in the sign business, as you guys know, generally you're still, even if you're just taking information in about what a client wants for a quote, oftentimes there's tasks, and if it's an electric sign, it might require, gathering some documents like a sign criteria or logos, and then ultimately going out and doing surveys and all that. So we always just called everything a job at my shop. And if you got it, great, it moved on to the sole job, all the other processes. If you didn't get it, just archive it. It's not going to take up any real space in the system for you. And it's nice because if they ever call you back for whatever reason, you're going to have all their information. You're going to have contacts, possibly their logos and all that stuff. So if you've never, and we'll come back to this job in a minute, if you've never used a job flow board, basically, these columns represent stages of production, right? So maybe quoting is a stage, deposit, design. I talked to a shop the other day, I can probably delete this, but I talked to a shop the other day that has 2 designers and they just wanted to have 2 design columns. So I just kind of walked them through how to set that up. And I guess a lot of their projects required engineering. So we set up an engineering column. So I showed them how to do it, but you can have as many columns as you want, actually. So it depends on what you do. You know, if your project goes from opportunity to quote, then deposit, then design, you know, and pending approval is usually you're waiting for either a permit to be approved, or you're waiting for, you know, materials to come in or production files to be made, or whatever it is you do. And then, you know, and then once it's ready for production, you can move it into production. From here, if you don't, you know, if whoever is responsible for moving it into production, actually, here we go, pre-production. Whoever's responsible, you can mark it ready for next stage and then just leave it. And then whoever is responsible for pulling it over into production, whether you're doing it in-house or subcontract, you let go of it and it automatically removes that ready box. If for some reason in pre-production it's on hold, I can put this thing on hold and, you know, pending permit or materials or whatever's blocking it from moving to the next stage. So that's the idea behind this. With that, it doesn't automatically drop off because it kind of requires that you say, okay, this is no longer blocked by this problem, so I can unblock it and then move it. But again, you know, with the job flow board, the idea is that you prioritize based on what your, you know, your priorities are. So whether it's resource availability, you can say that, hey, this job, this 1087, excuse me, and this 1056 are small. So I'm going to knock these out first, and then I'll finish this one afterwards, because maybe it's going to tie up a printer for a couple days or an install crew for a couple days or whatever. If you're hardcore, you know, first in, first out, you can sort these by date. Anyway, so, but the goal is obviously to get these, you know, get these guys all the way down to the closeout stage. This represents tasks on the job. So the goal is to get, you know, 9 out of 10 tasks are completed, and the only task that's left, you know, and the closeout stage should just be to collect the final balance from the customer. And what we did, like you can see here, I put a block on this with invoice 112. So at our shop, the controller that did all the billing was the, you know, she would basically put that note on there when she sent the final invoice out in QuickBooks. And even though all your receivables are managed in QuickBooks, for production meeting's sake, we kept it on the board until the final balance was collected. And then that way there, if for some reason we were at production meetings and this thing was becoming, you know, 2 weeks past due or 3 weeks past due or whatever, it was aging, then it just kind of prompted either the project manager, because we kind of kept the project managers and myself as a salesperson involved in the collection close as part of the closing out process of the job. And after it went over 30 days, then at that point, the controller would just take it from there and just start hounding them for the money. But once the final balance was paid, you know, you just unblock it, archive it, and then it lives in archive forever. This archive column is going to show you the last 10 jobs that you did. But it stays in archive forever. And again, you can either, if you're on the job list view, you'll see the little archive button, or you can just use the search and look for any job, and that universal search will actually pull everything up in archives too. If you are, you know, if first of all, if you manage everything and you want to see everything, the job flow board, you can set up unlimited amounts of columns. It's fine. If you have a shop with a bunch of folks working, or a couple of folks working, even if you want to put it up on a large screen, it's nice because it does kind of create a sense of, urgency. You get a big picture view of what's happening. But if you're a person that only deals with production, you might not want to see all this stuff, all the time. So you can now create views of the job flow board. So I can come in here and go, okay, so the main board has everything. So I want to create a board for just production. So I would just type in production. If you want to describe it, you can. And then you just pick whatever columns you want to show in that view of the board. So in this case, like I created a production view, I can select it, click it, and it just gets rid of everything else. And I can just see what I have to deal with in production. So if I'm a person that brings things into production, then that's all I have to deal with. So, or, you can see everything all the time. It's completely up to you. And you can set up as many views as you like. So if people just want to be able to see the things that pertain to them, they can set up a view for that. And you can make those views private too. So, if you get, someone in the shop that just decides that they want to see the job flow board in 6 different, variations, as long as they make them private, they won't show up in this long list. These are only the public ones. So if you create your own private view, they won't show up, on the other project manager's screen. All right, so let's get back to our job that we set up. Let's go back to our full view, and we're going to click in. So if you click the title here, the job number and job name, if I click it, it actually opens up the job folder. One thing I should say about the job flow board really fast though, is if you don't have, if you have a staff, and you don't have production meetings, the job flow board is a really good view for managing production meetings. That's what we used it for mostly at our shop. Because my last sign shop with my daughter, we didn't actually even have a shop. My first sign shop was big. It had 60 employees and huge plant and multiple trucks and all the stuff. And the second sign shop, there was just, they have 7 now, but it was 5 when I left. And so we didn't necessarily keep this on a big board, a big screen rather, all the time, but we did use it for production meetings. And it was great because we were able to, look at everything that was blocked, prioritize as needed and all that. So, and if you don't have production meetings, if it's just you and another person, then every single time you ask the other person, what's going on with this job? Then it's, that's your production meeting. But if you have a staff of 3, 4, 5, 6 and up, it's a nice idea to try to have production meetings. I think, a couple of days, couple days a week. And actually, before we jump back into this job, I should show you a few other things too. On the job card, if I click the description, it's going to open up this window, and you can create live links. So I see a lot of people do this where they say, that's the initial description that you typed in when you set the job up, and you can just go ... on a few lines, and then everything underneath there, you can write notes, you can put live links. So if you have different vendors you're using on a project or certain materials you want to be able to reference pretty quick from the job card, you can do all that. So I would just go here, and if I click that, it's going to launch that particular website. Same with emails or anything like that. And then this represents the tasks. This represents the attachments on the job. And then this little icon represents this job has notes. So, okay, now we go back to our job. So I click this, goes into the job. And here's where you do everything. So Dallas, I think you mentioned that you already had set up some tasks and things. So first you have your overview. So this is what we set up basically. And of course you can launch your email browser and all that. The tasks are template driven. So you can set up tasks for pretty much anything. You can just add a task. By the way, this is another part of the app that's responsive. So it's everything pretty much inside this job is a lot more responsive on mobile. But you can set up, just add a new task, whatever it is, make the sign. You can write a note, make the sign, save it, and then you can assign it to whoever you want to assign it to in the system. You can assign a due date that's different from the due date of the job. So let's say this job is, this will also move it on the job flow board, by the way. Let's say we're going to move this to design, and this job is sold, but it's due on whatever, February 17th. So now you can start adding tasks and kind of work backwards on dates. I can say, okay, well, if the job is due on the 17th, this particular task, I need to have it done by the 23rd. You can save it. Now, if this person goes to their task list, which we'll get to in a few minutes, they'll be able to see that this task is due on the 23rd. But I'll close this for a sec. Close this. But where SignTracker, where the task templates can make this whole process go faster. So let's say you build a task list for something as simple as a banner. It could just be, print the banner, make the banner, install the banner, collect the money, whatever. And each of these tasks can be assigned to people. Now, if you're a smaller shop and there's only 2 or 3 of you, then you can pre-assign. So I can build this task list out for this product banner, and then I can save it. I just name it banner, and then go okay, and then it's going to create this banner task list. If I pre-assign then once I create it, I can actually come in and assign all these tasks to people, and then save it again. So you could save it as banner, and as you can see here, this is my autofill for my browser. It's annoying me, but as you can see here, it'd be banner with team, and so then then you'd have the same task list, but with everybody pre-assigned to it. But anyway, but if you're not going to do the pre-assigned thing, you can just, as you're kind of organizing this job and getting it set up, okay, you know what, I'm going to let Fred do this one, I'm going to let this person do this one, and then you can build out this whole list, and you can add, like I said, due dates. You can add notes to a particular task if you wanted to communicate something special about getting this done. And so now for your employees or your team, or however you guys are structured, they would just, under the jobs tab, they could come every day to this, job tasks, and they can see everything that they have to do. And as long as they're logged in as themselves, they can see what's due today, what's due this week, next week, anytime. And if you're managing everybody, you can see every employee's tasks that are assigned to them. And if you want to see all the tasks on every job, assigned or not, then you can just go to the job list and pull up all the tasks. And you can actually just sort out by job too. But if you wanted to see every task on every job, whether it's assigned or not, you would just select that. So, but folks can come in here every day and go, oh, okay, well, I have to get this done. It's due on, it's late, so I can come in here and I can change it. The due date, if I needed to, if it got bumped for some reason, I could still say it's in progress. Then once it's done, it's going to show on the job flow board that it's done. I can write notes to say if it was in progress and the client wanted to meet a week later or whatever, they can write a note to remind themselves and then reassign it. It'll also send email reminders out that tasks have been assigned to them and all that. So I loved the task list. I pretty much lived between the job list view and the task list view, and it just kind of kept me on track for sure on the jobs I was working on. Notes, pretty self-explanatory. Yes, Jason.
Can you edit the task list later? Can you go back and modify it or delete a task list, a template that you don't use anymore?
Absolutely. Yep. You can do that in the settings. You'll see the task list, just delete the whole list. But you can also edit it here too. So let's say you decided there was an extra task on banners that you forgot about. You can just go new task, add, I'm just going to pick one of these. This is my browser with that self thing, but I can go save task template. I save that task. So close this. And now you see that new task I just added. Then I can grab it. I can move it up to wherever I want it to be. And then I just go save task template as, select the template that you're modifying, bang, click that name, save it, and then it updates it for you.
Okay. And then delete it is in settings and system admin.
Yeah. Deleting's in the settings. Yep. And you'll see the task list in there, all the task lists that you created in there. There's a delete button.
Great.
So again, notes, pretty self-explanatory. We'll timestamp them and all that, and anybody can make notes in a job. I used this a lot. I made notes on everything that happened on a job, and especially in my emails. I think I talked about this in the other videos too. So I use Gmail for our company email, and I always have, and it's great. It's just that sometimes you'll get these long threads going, and clients will be like, I approve this, I don't approve this, whatever. And so I just got into the habit of copying and pasting entire emails into here. I wish there was a way to automatically do it at some point. Maybe in SignTracker we'll figure that out. But even just cutting and pasting emails and stuff was super helpful for a client called in and requested something. Attachments, we just did a huge update on this several months back, and it's really nice. So each file can be upwards to a gig each, but you could have 10 files on a job. So it's pretty unlimited. And you can either drag and drop them from your computer or just typical, navigate. Let's see if I have some uploads here. I'm going to go see if I can find these just to show you guys how they work. Work and products and client docs and upload art samples. So I navigate to them, find them, upload them, and it's going to automatically upload them. All the files where, everything with SignTracker is on Amazon Web Services. So upload speed, download speed's pretty quick. And now you can organize these any way that you want. So if you guys do surveys or completion photos or production files or whatever, and what you do is you just basically click on the file. It'll show you a full size thumbnail view of it, what it is. I go edit, and then I can select, you can create these tags basically by just typing in the name and then add it. And you can create tags. And so let's say this is the logo file, and you can have multiple tags on one file. So let's say if this is, I click this and I want to edit it. We'll call this one a logo, and we'll save it. You can download it from here. You can delete it. And these files are like, this one right here is an Adobe Illustrator file. This is a PDF, PNG, Corel Draw. Obviously JPEGs, PNGs, SVGs, whatever, however you save your files. I need to test some Flexi files. They might convert. If you save your files as PDFs, they'll always work. But if you design in Illustrator or Corel, you can just upload them as they are, and it'll show you this thumbnail view. But what it does is, if you start tagging these things, you can see here logo and design. But let's say I just wanted to look at the design files, right? So I could just click that, and it gets rid of all the other ones, and then you can see just this. If you want to see, all the files, just the logos, so it's kind of like a folder structure system, but it's just based on tags instead. By the way, if you guys haven't joined our Behind the Signs group on Facebook, it's pretty cool. We're trying hard to put out super helpful content. We just released a video yesterday on, selling electric signs and using a wholesaler to help with manufacturing support. And so if you guys aren't on Behind the Signs, it's good. And we upload kind of free files, and like there's a file in there for national average pricing for labor rates. There's a labor rate calculator. There's just all kinds of cool little stuff up there. Plus, it's good. Like I've noticed more and more sign shops are now asking questions, and other folks are getting in and answering them. And it's been pretty neat to see that thing grow. Okay, so now we kind of get to the quoting part of SignTracker. So before we jump into that, do you guys have any other questions on the project management side?
I don't. It was the task, and just kind of for me, refreshing the task and how to, once the task list has been edited or added to a job, and going through and editing it, and you showed me what I needed. Good.
Well, I will go through how quotes work in SignTracker, pretty quick here, because I know we're running a little low on time. But if you guys, when you get to the point of setting up on the quoting, if you feel like you need any help whatsoever, don't hesitate to reach out on the chat. Don't get stuck, I guess is what I'm saying. So, all right. So now we're still in the same job that we created, the customer. And I know we went through a lot of chatting between setting this job up and getting to this point of quoting. But remember, if you're just giving a simple, quick quote, a customer calls in, set up a new job, capture as much information about the client as possible. I always tell people at least get the contact name, the company name, the phone number, and the email. And you can always go back in and fill it in later, the rest of it if you needed to. But let's go to contracts. Oops, I did forget one thing. anything that you do on a job is tracked here. So I did want to show you guys that. So if I add designs, or if I, complete tasks or move a job from stage to stage or whatever, it's going to keep a running tab here of all the different things that I did or whoever did on this job. So whoever logs into the system and changes something, it'll show up here. I forgot to tell you that. All right. So a customer calls in, you set the job up. This quote worksheet tab, think of it like a filing cabinet. So you can have multiple quote worksheets on a job. So say you're doing, a vehicle wrap, but then, they want a couple of coroplast signs, or they want a site sign, or it's a channeler project and they want a pylon panel. Like, you can have multiple worksheets for different products on one job, and they're all stored here, and you can come in and edit them and change them and clone them and all that stuff. But it's really so much easier just to hit this contracts button and link or page or whatever you want to call it, go new contract. And then you start adding line items. This is a worksheet. So basically, there's a couple ways to add line items to a worksheet. One is you just go new line, and all this is going to do is make a copy of the master template. And you'll see this in the quoting setup. The master template, yours probably looks just like this, is really the only thing you want to really set up in the master template in the quoting setup is these item categories. And they're all set up just like this right now. And so basically, let's say your materials, they feed into these drop-down menus, and you're marking materials up 100%. And materials are checked off for this item category. Because really, it's material items, labor items, and formula items that all feed into these item categories. So in materials, when you're setting up your materials, you can, I was just recommend doing it this way. Set your materials up at your cost and how you sell it to the customer. So you're gonna have to do a little bit of math here. And actually, we're working on an update to the whole material thing too. So this probably will even get a little easier. But let's say you buy a 4x8 sheet of acrylic and it's $100, and you sell it by the square foot. So, you'll divide that $100 by whatever the square foot is, 32 square feet. And that's what you want to enter into the material setup. You want to say, okay, I sell this for $10 a square foot, or you might sell it by the sheet. It is $100 for a sheet. And then when you're doing your quoting on products, you might say, I'm going to use a minimum of a quarter of a sheet. You can go 0.25 for the quantity of 0.50. So it's completely up to you, but set the materials up how you sell it to the customer and set it up at your cost. Now, inside of each material item that you load into the setup, there is another little cell in there for waste, handling, additional profit. So I know some folks say that in vinyls, they'll mark up their vinyl, 100%, and then just as an additional profit, or to handle handling, or maybe their vinyl per square foot, they count it as, cut, weeded, and masked, and that's how they sell it, whatever. So, but this is more of the markup inside the job. And so we would always try to mark up our materials at 100%. And then, if I change this inside this job right here, it's not going to change the master template. So I can make any adjustments to any template inside the job, and it won't hurt what you set up in the setup section. Labor items, there is about 25-ish labor items in the setup section. You can delete them all if you want. Some sign shops do it pretty cut and dry. I have a $90 an hour shop rate, $125 in the field, 2 guys in a pickup truck. Maybe that's light, but you know what I mean? And that's it. And the reason why it's a 0% markup on this particular copy of the master template, and the reason why it's set up at 0% markup on the master template is because most sign shops will enter their labor rates into SignTracker at what they charge the customer. I think it would be better to enter your labor rates in at what it costs you, like calculating what your labor burden is, and then put your additional 65%, 67%, whatever it is, markup inside your worksheet templates. But, a lot of sign shops just don't want to do it that way. And so we went ahead and defaulted it to 0. But I would say, if you do go to that Behind the Signs site, or you can email me, and I'm completely happy to just email it to you guys. There is a labor rate calculator there. It's an Excel calculator, and you can pull it down and you can figure out things like your light bill, your rent, your mortgage, whatever you get going on, insurances and all that. And then you could, and it's an Excel sheet too. So you can make copies of the sheet inside of it, or just make copies of the whole document. And so if you want to calculate one for just the folks in the shop, you want to calculate one for, a couple of guys in a crane, you can kind of figure out what your overhead rates are for each, thing. And then inside the job, well, you'll know that that's your list price, what you charge the customer. The other thing is too, we did a survey on national averages for labor rates, and behind the signs, that labor rates sheet is in there too. So it kind of says, oh, well, the average for a shop rate is 75 to 95 an hour, or whatever they are. I don't know off the top of my head, but we put them in there for a lot of different types of labor rates. If you want to use that as a reference, it might be helpful too. And if you're not on Face World, I don't blame you. Just send me an email. I'm happy to send you those documents anyway. So formula items. So when you're setting those up in SignTracker, those are things that, think about completed things, right? So if you sell a banner and it's a 4x8 banner and it's single-sided, grommets, hems, laminated, printed, all the above, 13-ounce white material, and that 4x8 banner is $100. So that completed 4x8 banner could be a formula item if you wanted it to be, or, the same with dividing the square footage on the material. You could build out a banner and divide it by the square footage and say, hey, I charge $10 a square foot for this completed thing. I would say, formula items, I kind of mixed feelings about them. I think they're fine. I think they're fine for simpler things. I think where formula items can get a little dodgy is if you try to, there's some electric sign shops that say, well, I charge $15 an upright inch for channel letters, or I charge, whatever, $40 a square foot for an illuminated sign cabinet, double-sided. Even that necessarily isn't so bad, as long as you take the time to list out all the materials, list out all the labor rates, and really calculate what it costs you to do that, and then occasionally kind of update that. But on smaller things, especially, I think formula items can be really useful, and they can help quoting go faster. Anything that's really custom, though, to say I'm going to have a cabinet, illuminated cabinet square footage price, and it's something that has, a fancy, metal bends to the top of it or whatever, it's probably not a great idea to use formula pricing for that. It's better to just cost it out by materials and labor. The other thing is, I always tell folks too, a good kind of cheat thing to do is, and it's not bad to have relationships with wholesalers, especially if you're growing like crazy and your clients are wanting more, and you don't really, feel like you want to take the risk of having a bigger building or whatever, or you want to just start, offering electric signs, and you've never done it before. I mean, partnering with a good wholesaler for anything is good, like digital prints. I mean, I get into doing a lot of digitally printed wall graphics, which I never did at my first company. We were primarily electric. And then my second sign shop, we did thousands and thousands of square foot of digital printed wallpaper. Basically, we used this product called Dreamscape. And I used a vendor out of Georgia Print Co. They were amazing to work with. But the reason why I say, with having relations with wholesalers, if it's nice because you could just send a drawing to them, they'll give you a price, then you put your markup on it, whatever, it's fine. But if you really want to use the formula pricing, occasionally just ordering a 4x8 banner from a wholesaler, get it to your door. By the time it gets to you, if it costs $100, double it, divide it by the square footage, and there's pretty good retail price for a formula item, minus maybe a little bit of money for design, or if you're installing it, then that's a separate thing. You'd add that, but just for the product itself. So formula items also are in the master template. The default, and you can change this, is set to 0. And the reason why is that, again, most sign shops are entering, the ones that use formula items are entering them into the system at what they charge the customer, their retail rate. So, and that's completely up to you. This item category, and you can add as many of these categories as you want. This item category, I selected none in the drop-down menu. just type ahead, so you just type like, so Gemini letters or whatever. So any kind of special order item like that, a banner stand from whoever. And then we would always try to mark up order items like that 100% if we could. We defaulted it to 100%. If you're quoting a job and maybe you're in a bit of a competitive situation or whatever, hopefully that doesn't come up too much if you have some great clients, but occasionally, and so at least inside the job, you can play with that markup a bit, and it shows you too, it's going to show you, okay, I'm going to make $75 off this or whatever. Subcontract, same, it's nothing selected, 100% markup. You hire a couple of guys to go, drill some holes and set some pipe, or a couple of guys to go, wrap a skyscraper or whatever, so I mean, whatever if you subcontract out labor, we would always try to double that if we could, and but at least we defaulted to start with that. The rest of this stuff, if you were using this blank, the reason why this is in here and you can pull up a copy of the master template, if you just wanted to do a quote on the fly for something, or if you wanted to take the time to really build something out custom, then you would use a blank template and add your materials and labor. And then you could write a nice description. This is a really nice sign, and you could name the worksheet, whatever, and then save it. And what it would do, it would add a line item here. But almost even custom, like say you do a lot of custom illuminated cabinets, or you do a lot of vehicle wraps, and you can build templates out for anything. So even if it's a custom monument signs, you do a lot of custom monument signs, you can build a template that has your basic list of materials, your basic list of labors, and then you'd basically come in and just change the quantities or add whatever needed to be added. But in banners, we're going to say, okay, we're going to pull this banner up, and I already have, if you build it out, you're already going to have all the materials. You can change, whatever you want. You can see, I have my materials set up in this at a 50% markup. You can see what that margin is. And you can have, pre-done labor. You can add more labor items if you want. Obviously, change the quantities. If you have a sales rep, great. You could have these templates pre-set up with whatever your commission might be, or these commission and upcharges could be things like a rush charge, and you could say, it's $100 on a rush charge. Discounts, same, it's just going to go up here and it's going to subtract whatever. If you put in a, $50 discount, it's going to subtract it evenly amongst all the categories. Extras, you don't have to use this on your templates, but this is really good for things like, let's say you have a standard minimum art setup fee on every job. Well, you can add this to the bottom of the template, and you'll just, if you want it to be line itemed down the bottom of the contract. Or this is great for things like surveys, permits, permit acquisition, engineering, like those kinds of things. If you do electric signs, those are all there. Then your taxes, those are going to all come over from QuickBooks. So you would just select your taxes, and it already has a description. It already has a name. You save it, and it adds this line item to the contract. Now, I can add more, whatever I'm quoting next, I can add more templates, more products, whatever. It's unlimited. And let's say the third way to add a line item to a contract is through cloning. So I can go here, and let's say this, this banner, they are ordering it for the outside of the building. They're getting ready to open in a couple months, or, and their electric sign or whatever is not going to be ready for whatever reason. And then they said they want one for the inside too, until their permanent sign's done, but they don't want it to have grommets and hems. They just want a simple flat, nothing, so you can clone it. And what it does, it's going to clone that existing quote you just made. So this is really good, especially say if you're doing let's say you are doing a channel letter set, and it's a 24-inch set of channel letter set on the front of the building and an 18-inch set on the side, rather than starting from scratch, especially if all the specs are the same, the acrylic, sidewall colors, LED colors, all the stuff, raceway colors, you could just come in and make a few little adjustments on the size, and then, clone it. But let's say in this case, they don't want this, and they don't want this, and they don't want this. They just want a simple printed banner or whatever. And, you're not going to charge them twice for the design, but you are going to charge them for putting it together. You won't charge them twice for a rush. Art setup fee, we're not going to charge them twice for that. Taxes will stay the same. And then you just kind of, you change whatever you want to change down here, blah, 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 blah. And you could call, instead of duplicate, you can say it's second banner or whatever. Save it, and then it adds another line item. And then also in cloning, I can come here to all jobs, and I can search for any quote I did. So let's say you did a wrap on a small box truck a couple months back, and maybe, well, I would say the same client, but with the same client, you could clone the whole job. But let's say it was a different client, and you wanted to, I just quoted one of these guys, I can come in here and I can look for, this is why naming the product is good. It'll help you. But let's say if I have, let's see if a truck wrap comes up. All right, here's a truck wrap that we did. So I can come in here. Oh, a $24 truck wrap. That's not going to happen. But anyway, you get it. So basically you can quote, I must have just named this, and I was just showing someone how this clone thing worked. But yeah, you could clone it from another job, and it's going to make a copy of it. It's not going to change anything on that job that you quoted 2 months back. It's just going to make a copy of the quote, and then you can delete, add, edit any way you want, save it, and then it'll add another line item. So once you get your quote worksheet built out, you can write a little note, thanks so much, blah, 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 or hey, I need to have access to the inside of the building on this date if I'm going to install it, anything you want to communicate. Save it, and then it's going to create a contract. So we are working on some pretty cool stuff when it comes to an approval portal. It's a big part of the update that we did on attachments, and plus there was a whole bunch of infrastructure stuff that we had to do that is all now all done. So we are going to make it so that you can send this directly out of SignTracker with the proofs that go along with this particular drawing. It might be that you just click a button that says add, from your computer or from your attachments. But in any case, we haven't quite figured out the user interface and all that. But for now, though, if you want to send this to the customer, you can just click this custom link and then open up your email, type a nice little note that says, here is your quote, paste the link, click this link to approve. And then they'll be able to, I'll show you exactly what it looks like. I'm just going to paste the link in my browser. And let me try that again. I watched Garrett do this the other day, and I thought, I'm going to be a pro at this. There it is. So if your customer hits the link in their email, this is what they're going to see. And they can look at it and go, okay, looks great, sign and approve. And I'm going to say my name, Jaranella, click. It's going to sign it. It's going to print my name. It's going to date it. And now I will have received an email that shows me that this was approved by the customer. And then it automatically will, might take a sec. This is my demo account, so it kind of works a little different than everything else that is in the system. Yes, sir, Jason.
Is there a possibility, this may be a feature request, is there a possibility to get a description box or a comment box for the customer so they can say, this doesn't look right, or the quantity's off, or something like that?
Absolutely. That's all part of, that is all part of what is coming for sure. Yep.
Okay.
And so, and the same with the drawings and all that too. So
how far is the timeline on that?
It's what we're working on.
Okay.
It's a big priority. And then ultimately, we also want to, we're going to build in the ability to make payments and everything too. And then have that all feed into QuickBooks. So no, we're working on a couple of little tweaky things that are cool, but for the most part, all of our development efforts are in the approval portal, all of this stuff. We want to make it as hopefully as easy to use as possible, and the way for your client to communicate. with you. So as you can see, it marked it as approved automatically, and your customer signed off on it. And so you again, you'll be alerted an email that the customer signed off on it. And then if you're syncing with QuickBooks, you're going to have a little button or a link here that says generate invoice. You would just click that. It'll take all this information. You can map these line items to sales categories in QuickBooks, like this is an electric sign, this is a vinyl graphic sign, whatever, if you get that granular in QuickBooks. You can also download this as a PDF and attach your drawings and send it to the customer that way too. I mean, hopefully we're getting to, and we'll probably always keep that there for some sign shops that like to do it that way, but we're hoping just to get this to a point where, everyone can do it all electronically, and the customer can communicate, like you were saying, Jason, and make it just as easy as possible for everyone. But this right now, if you send this over to QuickBooks, it will generate an invoice that matches the description and all this stuff. And if the customer is brand new and you set them up in SignTracker and they're not in QuickBooks yet, SignTracker will set the customer up for you in QuickBooks and then generate the invoice for you. And then from QuickBooks, then you can do your receivables and your final invoicing and all the stuff from there. So anyway, there's probably some other stuff you'll discover as you're playing with SignTracker. And like I said, we're growing it. We're working really hard on it. So there's also chat support. So we're pretty responsive to this. So right now we typically reply in under 5 minutes. So we try to be pretty responsive with this. And there's several of us that are monitoring this at all times. So if you guys ever have any questions whatsoever, there are some videos you can watch on the QuickBooks integration and stuff from here too. And then, you just reach out to us. Like if you need any help or want further training. Matter of fact, on the quoting part, if you get to the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to dig into this, I'm going to make it work, and you're going to set some stuff up. If you want to set up another session with me, I'm always, happy to jump on a call and we can, go through a little bit more coaching on the quoting side. So, and there's forms in SignTracker and sign templates and all kinds of stuff. The forms, there's a lot of them in here. So I would recommend just playing with them. And there's a video that shows you how they work. And if you have a form that you are absolutely married to and can't live without it, I now have the ability to code that form for you and upload it to your account only. So if you do feel like you need that kind of help and support, let us know and we can help with that as well. So the sign templates, you might have a lot of these already. There's a bunch of channel letter ones, this site signs, door vinyls and all that. Some of these are a little dated, but they're still cool. There's a lot of them. If you don't have them, they're great. They're a great resource. You can download them. You can open them in, Illustrator, Corel, Flexi. They're vectored, so you can save them. We actually just engaged with a really good technical designer that is going through all these and modifying them and making them a little bit more updated. And at some point, we're thinking we might even move this out of within the job and move it more like a resource tab within the app. So that we can upload not just these templates, but maybe some other helpful stuff, like some of the stuff that we have on the Behind the Signs site. But anyway, I mean, guys, that's a pretty good overview of SignTracker. I would say, if just dig in if you need help with anything whatsoever. Just feel free to reach out to me or to Brooke, Garrett, Keith, Rodrigo. I mean, we're all here to help. Thanks so much for checking out SignTracker, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube.